Parenting equals mom? Question mark. Is that the case really? Is that a reality? What do you say, parents? Welcome back to Afternoon Tea, and we're here, Shawn Bradbury and Niyati Patel. We're discussing our journeys as coaches and facilitators to parents and families, and exploring ourselves through conversations. And thank you for joining us. So, Shawn,
Yes.
what do you think gender? Do you think gender is an important piece to parenting? I mean, do you think it is a gendered identity to be a parent?
I think
Just
there are certain
generally.
things, based upon what I've learned of, there's certain things that a woman can bring to a child's life, and certain things a man can bring to a child's life as well. But, at the end of the day, I truly believe if you love a child and it can be affectionate, I think, anything like that, anything along those lines of authenticity of love and support for a child, I don't, I can see different ways of going with that.
Yeah, and I can see that too. I'm always, questioning whenever there is an event or session, webinar, program for parents, there is a high number of moms or women signed up as compared to men. And just a moment ago, we were discussing participating as, in our kids' lives, and you were talking about you having gone to a lot of the events and classes that your daughter went for, participated in as a child, and often you were probably one of the few men in the room. And I remember growing up, my dad would come pick us up at school many times. And my dad was older, so I would have friends giggling and saying, "Is your grandfather here?" He had white hair as well. But yeah, he was our, my mom liked to stay indoors a lot more, so he was our ride or person who would bring us places. And he was very comfortable with that, despite the fact that he was probably older, and I don't know what he thought about it. I have a feeling he didn't care either way. He was just happy to be with us. And that's what I think is precious to me growing up. What would you say from your experience with your daughter?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I've been involved in my daughter's life immensely. I mean, that's the one thing I can honestly say I will never regret is I was always there spending time with her on some level. And as I mentioned earlier, when she was very small, and typically, moms bring their kids to like a reading class at the library or things along those lines, I was the only dad in that class. We'd come in, I'd plop her between my legs, and we'd sit there and we'd listen to the person reading the stories and everything during that time frame. And it never bothered me because I love being a dad, and all the things that her and I have done throughout the years, from teaching her how to swim, it was incredible. We had a little outlet of water near us that was just designated for the town, and that's where I taught her to swim. And then we'd have like races and things like that, like throwing things and who can make it first, and we'd swim underwater and push each other and cheat and stuff like that, and just have a great afternoon together. And I can understand where you're coming from, because a lot of all those things would be more the role of the mother. So I definitely understand where you're coming from.
Well, I don't see how. What I hear from your your experience, especially the swimming and all of that, you are teaching your daughter, or you were teaching her things that you love and enjoy, or you learned to love and enjoy as you raised her.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents do that. A lot of times I think we're put in situations which might not be our comfort zone, but our kids like it, and we put ourselves out there. And digressing a little bit, but trying to stay with this conversation, teaching our kids the confidence we have in ourselves to teach. And I know that we might be able to teach different things coming from our own experiences, which could be biased by gender because we may not be exposed to certain things compared to others. My own example is I'm learning to drive now. But I feel pretty good about it. So if I had to ever teach someone, I think I'll be okay. But if I had to delve into that anytime sooner than before I have actually learned it, it would present some challenges. And I think that has to do with gender. I feel, at least in my situation, that it was not that I was denied, it was just not a priority. As a girl, as a woman, you will be taken care of. So it's not a priority, and it's not a necessity as well. I just wonder what we can speak to about the confidence we can have in ourselves to teach our kids, you know, because that's part of being a parent, because we want to teach them things. We can't ensure what they will learn, but we can definitely participate in how they can learn and how much of that we can provide that's the best of our ability, but the best of their good.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. I think a lot of it comes down, in my mind, even more now, just being a single parent, to role modeling. Sometimes it's not necessarily the lesson that's spoken, but the lesson that's seen. Um, whether that's being, manners or whatnot, um, and I've learned to better validate. I've learned um, to understand validation and emotions better. That's been a big game changer as far as understanding my own emotions, but also understanding my daughter's emotions and where she's coming from. Um, so I think a lot of it is just kind of like knowing more about myself, which has helped me learn more about her and understand her needs and how I can, be the best parent possible for her. But even growing up, like I changed many dirty diapers. I was that dad. I was, feedings and diapers, and so. And I have one male friend. I don't think he changed a single diaper, during having two kids and stuff. So I don't know if that's
Mm.
commonplace at times. I don't know, but for me, I enjoyed the whole experience, not just the fun stuff. When it was bath time too, like I was in there for bath time. It's like I loved it all. So, um, like I said, that's one thing I'll never regret is all the little things that we did back then, and even to this day, we continue to do. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I feel there's a couple things here. One is, which was playing on my mind when a child is born, it's a young child, baby, and the important things are food, sleep, and I guess getting cleaned. Um, who is the most intimate with those activities is usually the mom,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be only the mom. And what this brings me to is, and then the whole conversation about getting in touch with your emotions. And I worked a lot with my own, and then helped my parents come to terms with their own. And then the families I have worked with, I have also gone into the emotion of, for getting the confidence to get in touch with your own emotion with regards to interactions with your child, and acknowledging the emotion of your child. And so simple and basic, but often not, I think as a culture, we say things like, "Oh, changing diapers is that's not the fun thing." But I think it's well, it's everyday thing. It's just a thing, and uh, for it's possible. But I feel like maybe because it falls on the mom's shoulders, especially in the beginning, some of these intimate tasks that um, for the dad to get in, it's not about the baby. It's not about the fun or lack of fun stuff. It's about being one on one with somebody, and it's being one on one with this little person who's arrived, and getting savvy with that one on one intimate connection or experience, because it's as new for the mom as well. I mean, none of us as people have met this baby before.
Yeah.
We've been anticipating their coming. Um, we have known of their presence, but the actual engaging interaction and with like a physical eat and sleep and cry and hunger happens when the baby is born, and it's developing that relationship. And somewhere it might be closest physically to the mom, but I think it's something that's intimate that both parents can take the courage to be part of for the baby and then the growing person, the
Yeah.
child.
Well, it's interesting because my daughter's adopted, so she came into the world in a different way to us. So instead of me being in a waiting room in a hospital, I'm in a waiting room at a hotel. So
Mm.
waiting for a person to drive up with my daughter, you know what I mean? So we didn't have that experience of the 9 months and the prep along those lines. Like, I don't even want to say most people because I don't know what the average is of things along those lines, but I had a different experience as far as my daughter coming into the world. And so not necessarily her mother having that bond because she did not grow in her, you know. So it was a different experience when she came to us, you know. So
Well, that's a beautiful share. And do you feel that of course there was a waiting, if not 9 months. You were eagerly waiting for her,
it was a
or
different
however
waiting, by
long
the
it
way.
took, the whole
It was a
process.
different waiting.
But I'm sure there was a waiting
Hmm.
and an eager anticipation of
Oh,
meeting
without a
her.
doubt.
And you bring something to me. Do you feel that, that probably helped or facilitated in some way of, you know, you didn't have those gender roles to tell you what to do because it was different.
Right.
And I just knowing you, what I know of you now, I feel you're the kind of person who will jump in anyway. But I'm just curious for all the people we're engaging with, if that's something also when we're thrown out of our usual familiar, that we end up being more of ourselves than otherwise.
Yeah, I think, it was quite a period of the process and everything. So none of it was what you envision it to be when you grow up, you know? So it was definitely a different kind of adventure to acquire our family. Um, and maybe that as a whole in itself is a different dynamic because even when we took the classes prior to it, to your point earlier, the child doesn't need much other than, love, shelter, food, you know what I'm saying? And even they're like, they don't even need a lot of material things. It's not about that. It's about the interaction and the love and the caring and everything that you give the child. It could be as simple as just a ball that you roll to next, back and forth to each other. It doesn't have to be 10,000 gifts at Christmas time that your child's overwhelmed with. And I liked the simplicity mindset of that because it's like, that's the true connection. You know, take an object and interact with it instead of bringing in objects and then you just interact with that. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of concept. So yeah, it was a different experience. It's like something that some people never experience. Like I'll never experience the other end of it, you know. But this is what I know, and I wouldn't change it for the world, you know.
Thank you. I feel that this does bring us to a wrap for this session. And I think my takeaway from our conversation really is we can choose to come into connection, and that all pieces of us are in continuous training. There is no finality, but even to be this important role as a parent, we need to be open to training ourselves, and that would be something ongoing.
I like that. I like the way you framed that. That was nice.
Well, so thank you, Shawn, and thank you to our listeners. We will be back soon. Thank you for joining us, and see you
Yes.
again
Thank you so
soon.
much, everybody. Take care of yourselves.
Bye.